Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the channel. So today I'm doing a video and I'm gonna cover the first 5,000 miles with the Stage 2 Whipple installed on my 2025 Mustang GT. So we're back on top of my parking garage. We're trying a new mic setup, so hopefully the audio comes out a little bit better than it has been kind of in the same spot, because there's like weird kind of glitchy interference issues I've been getting with my old mic setup, so hopefully it's better for this video. But I want to go over the first 5,000 miles I've had with the Stage 2 Whipple on my 2025 Mustang. So there has been some quirks, there has been some issues. We did get them worked out, so we're running solid now. But I do want to say right off rip, for those of you guys who have a Mustang and are looking to Whipple supercharge it, these issues are not going to be ones that you guys are probably going to run into. These are install specific issues, and more specifically shop install issues. So the shop I went to, they unfortunately kind of cut some corners when it came to the install for this Mustang. I did make a video about it before. I don't think I could in good conscience actually say the shop's name. Things happen. My experience with them was pretty unfortunate. I do have some videos where I do mention the shop's name before I did the install, but for the sake of this video, I'm not going to mention the shop's name. But to get started, here are the issues that I ran into. So the first issue, when I got the car back, okay, I dropped the car off to do the Whipple install. They gave me the car back. The first issue, I had severe cutting out problems when I got up in the rev range. So if I would do a pull, second, third gear, didn't really matter. Anything above 3,000 RPMs, there was just like a lot of cutoff. Now this one was kind of a weird issue. It was almost as if the engine wasn't getting fueling when I was up high in the RPMs. Fueling wasn't the issue. What it specifically was I was having spark blowout. And what spark blowout is if the spark plug is not gapped to the correct length, or the gap is too wide, the added induction of air to the cylinder heads was actually blowing out the spark on ignition. So I wasn't actually getting like the correct detonation in the cylinder. You get air, you get fuel, you get spark. The spark would be blown out, given the term, and you didn't actually have like any ignition cycle. So that was a super easy fix. Now there was a pretty long interaction with the shop that was pretty troublesome. I do have a video on that. If you guys want to go watch that, I go more into depth with kind of my issues specifically with the shop. But Rob Shoemaker and his team, they helped me out really quick. I told them the issues I was having. And again, my car is tuned by Rob Shoemaker. And he told me, yeah, man, you got to look at spark blow. Your plugs are just probably not gapped correctly. So pulled the plugs. They were like, I have feeler gauges, and you should be gapping them to, I think it's like 0.030 or 0.028. Either way, you're probably going to be good with them. You'll get different opinions wherever you guys look on the internet. But they were at larger than my 0.055 feeler gauge. So they weren't even touched at all. So when the shop installed the spark plugs, they never gapped them. And if you go through the Whipple instructions, it specifically tells you when you pull the spark plugs from the box, you have to gap them to, I think it's like 0.030 or whatever it is. They give you instructions, you're supposed to gap them. They completely missed that, threw the spark plugs in. They never really tested the car, or they just said good enough, whatever it was. But when I got it back, just severe cutting out issues in the high RPM. So the car just ran really crappy. So that was my first issue. Super easy fix, pulled the plugs, regapped them, took all of like an hour. It wasn't like the end of the world. Just a super frustration, just a super kind of frustrating situation. Something I should have never ran into, which is gonna be a theme with this video, because all these issues are issues I should have never had with the car. So another issue I had was, not that this was like the biggest deal, but there is a fuse or a line that runs into the fuse box. I think it's added from the fuel pump. I'm not super sure. If I did the Whipple install myself, which after you guys get done with this video, you'll see why I'm saying I really wish I did the Whipple install. But there is a line that runs into the fuse box, and the fuse box has coverings and kind of like lattice plastic kind of seal the fuse box has a cover, and within that cover there's plastic gridding that kind of keeps water out and keeps everything neat inside the fuse box. Well, in the Whipple instructions, it tells you you're supposed to cut a gap for that little wire that runs to the fuse. Again, I think it's for a fuel pump. I'm not super sure. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but there is an added line that gets ran into the fuse box. So they never cut a little gap in the plastic cover for it, so it chewed up that wire really bad. It never got to the point where it actually something went wrong and I had an issue, but I did actually fix that wire. So I cut it, spliced it, resoldered it, and then heat shrinked it, and then actually cut the correct kind of plastic gap in the fuse box cover. And again, that's according to Whipple's instructions. Whipple specifically in the instructions say you're supposed to do this. They never did that. It chewed up the wire. So I figured I'd rather just catch this before it actually runs into a real issue somewhere down the line. So fix the wire, cut the gap in the fuse box, or I guess the fuse box cover, and that issue was solved. Another issue I ran into, and again, this is shop install, is the pulley. And for this issue, you can kind of put it on me. I think that's fair because I stripped one of the screws. But for the pulley on the Supercharger, I swapped from the stock 3.75 pulley to a 3.625 pulley. Pretty common thing for the stage 2s. You can fuel on the stock fuel system a 3.625 pulley just fine. A 3.5 pulley is when you start really running into questionable fueling issues, where you're probably toeing the line or the bleeding edge of when you really should upgrade your fuel system. But a 3.65, you can run that just fine all day on the stock fuel system with a stage 2 Whipple. So I was like, so I ordered a 3.625 pulley. I figured I could swap this out myself, wouldn't be a big deal. So pulled, the tubing for the air boxes, started undoing the 5 screws on the 3.75 pulley, realized that they're red Loctited, and on the last one I stripped the screw. So I actually had to bring the car to another shop called Danny's Performance. He's been fantastic. Danny's Performance I would recommend wholeheartedly. He's actually located in Seagoville, Texas. He's actually also been helping me a lot, correcting the first shop's initial install issues. So again, Danny's Performance, he's been amazing. He's been helping me out with all this stuff. So anyway, so I did just throw in the 4 screws back in, drove it down to Danny's shop, and he was able to actually get that stripped screw off and then put on the new 3.625 pulley. But you're not supposed to red Loctite the screws on the pulley. You're not supposed to Loctite them at all. You're supposed to torque them down to 30 foot-pounds. Again, this is all very specific in the Whipple instructions. So everything that I'm mentioning here is all Whipple instruction specific. So they say when you're installing the pulley, you do not put any Loctite. You don't put blue Loctite, you don't put red Loctite. You just put the screws in and then torque them to 30 foot-pounds. They red Loctited them. So I'm gonna blame the shop a little bit here for the reason why I stripped it. To be honest, I should have been just more careful, honestly, but I know I would not have stripped that screw if they did not red Loctite it. And again, that is very much going against Whipple's instructions. So that's something the shop that did the Whipple install should have never have done in the first place. So that was another issue I ran into. Again, got that sorted out, run the 3.625 pulley, no Loctite in those 5 pulley screws. Car runs beautifully. And then the last issue that I've had so far with 5,000 miles on the Supercharger is I did, and this isn't, I guess, specific to the Supercharger, but I did oil pump gears. Oil pump gears and crank sprocket. Again, the shop that did the Whipple Supercharger install also did the oil pump gears and crank sprocket. So if you guys are relatively familiar with those, it is pretty invasive work. So you got to take off the entire timing components. The front engine, the front engine cover has to come off. The timing components have to come off, so that's the timing chains. And then before you even get there, there's actually your AC compressor that sits on a stretch belt. It runs off the harmonic balancer, and it's not a part of all the other accessories in the accessory drive that also includes the Supercharger pulley. but it sits behind that, and there's an AC compressor, and there's a belt that you got to take off, and then once you do the oil pump gears and crank sprocket, you put the belt back on. Normally it's recommended, if you're going to pull that belt, they're really cheap, probably like 10, 12 bucks. They're stretch belts, so they're kind of a one-time use thing. If you pull the belt, you should just replace it, throw a brand new belt on. The shop never did that, so I'm guessing what happened is the belt was either hurt when they pulled it, or they hurt the belt when they put it back on. But within like 2,000 miles of having the supercharger done, that belt snapped and I lost AC. I didn't have any AC, so I'd, turn the AC on in the car, it'd blow air, but it wouldn't blow cold air. And then I'm sure you guys have seen with like snap belts, there's a bunch of like fuzzy residents that are, there's a bunch of like fuzzy belt residents that are all over the engine bay. So that was a pretty clear sign of a belt failure. So it was super easy to see, it's super easy to diagnose. Like, you get all those fuzzies in the engine bay and you immediately know, like, okay, we have a snap belt. Obviously the accessory drive belt that runs the pulley, that was just fine. So if you just look a little bit deeper, you'll see the actual AC compressor with the stretch belt that runs to the harmonic balancer. That was completely gone. So I knew, okay, pretty obvious what happened here. Just snap that belt. So so that was also something I had Danny's performance shop do in Seagoville, Texas. He just threw on a new belt. I used a Gates stretch belt. Apparently they're a little bit better than the factory Ford belts. So been running on the Gates stretch belt for the AC compressor. I've had no issues. Danny's install was perfect with that. So right now, as we're sitting, for the past probably 2,000 to 3,000 miles, we've been perfect. We've got all those weird issues sorted out. So the spark plug gapping, the weird line that runs to the fuse box, the pulley screws are torqued to their correct spec without Loctite, which they shouldn't have Loctite. Again, this is all very specific to Whipple's instructions. And we got a new stretch belt for the AC compressor. So we have AC again. So that's really all the issues I've had so far with the Whipple, which are kind of a lot, unfortunately. It kind of sucks that I've run into these issues. Again, a lot of them that weren't really that big of a deal, or I guess all of them weren't really the end of the world, like throwing on another belt. I paid Danny's performance shop to do that, of course, but that was just an expense I should never had to pay. Again, not Danny's fault, but definitely the shop that did the oil pump gears. I really wish they just threw on a new belt, or they're more careful and make sure they didn't put back on a hurt belt. Or just really issues I never really should have ran into. And again, for you guys who are looking to do a stage 2 Whipple install, or any Whipple install on your Mustang, these are not issues you guys are going to run into. Find a reputable shop, or do it yourself. And like these occurrences that I had are extremely rare. I mean, I was looking around the internet to see who else had these specific issues when they did oil pump gears in a Whipple install, and I couldn't really find much for cases out there that people have had the same kind of experience I had. So again, not the end of the world for these things, super quick fixes, nothing particularly catastrophic or anything in that category, but that's just kind of the first few issues I've had with the first 5,000 miles on the Stage 2 Whipple. But like I said, for the past 3,000 miles, we've been running super good. I've had no issues. Everything's been perfect so far. So I think we're over the hump, and I think we have smooth sailing ahead. So I appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Hope this helps anybody who has run into any of these weird issues. Hopefully not. I don't wish them on you guys, but if you do, you're not the only one out there. I've had these issues before too. So again, appreciate you guys tuning into this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one, so take care.